Welcome to Wahlotron, where Yulia and I try to break down what's going on towards the German elections, because, we got elections coming up. Woo! September 26th. I mean, they've been announced the whole time.
That's when we all got vaccinated. Yep.
No.
Get ready.
Yeah, obviously not. But you mean September 26th of in 4 years.
Yes.
Yeah. I like how you just did your calculator for when you're going to get your vaccine. It's maybe within the next 2 months.
Yeah, I doubt that. There won't be a letter. Like there wasn't a letter when I wanted to go to Hogwarts. There won't be a letter when I want to go get a vaccine.
Damn.
Problems of millennials.
Damn, I feel you, Queen.
Mm-hmm.
So this week is a little bit more laid back. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff going on with vaccine madness and whatnot that we talked about that already. Last episode beforehand, It's somewhere in the back catalog.
Yeah.
Listen to it. I think we did a very good job. It's quite funny to me that there are more scandals coming out against Jens Spahn.
Yep.
I think I joked of warehouses of vaccines appearing, but there are in fact warehouses of vaccines of Germans not wanting to take it.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. So you and I are not going to be getting it probably, of the 1.4 million that are just in warehouses.
Aww.
Yeah.
I take all the AstraZenecas. Just give them to me.
Just whip all of them up.
Germans don't want them.
Yeah. Just give me a little cocktail of Sputnik 5. Sinovac.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, AstraZeneca. I don't want BioNTech. Actually, contrary to what the Germans think, I don't think it'll work.
Because you're different.
Not that. I think that then it'll just be the thing of how a Mercedes works. Of you buy it, it works perfectly fine for a year, and then just completely breaks down.
Don't tell that people. They might believe that.
Just saying. Have you ever owned or driven a German car?
No.
Exactly, and you're German.
Driven probably.
Yeah.
No, wait, a Ford? No, it's not German.
Technically it is.
Yeah, technically.
But technically not.
Yeah.
Because the
Ford Galaxy spaceship.
Ford, damn, son.
I know.
No, Ford's
Everyone
weird.
was jealous.
Ford's a really weird one because they set up operations in Germany as a German company because their European market's so big.
But it's Fordism, so it's America, right?
But it's an American company, yeah.
Yeah.
But they offer completely different cars in Germany than they do in the United States.
Yeah, like Galaxies.
Yeah. Like the Ford Galaxy, exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, we're not talking about if German engineering is a good or bad thing.
No.
I've made a very stupid Twitter post about this earlier this week, and some people got very mad at me about it.
Oh, shit.
But yeah, we're talking about Germany's furthest left-wing party in parliament, coincidentally called the Left, or Die Linke. And they recently had their party congress. And there wasn't too much of a surprise that happened in terms of policy-wise, officially endorsing the appropriation of Deutsche Wohnen.
Yep.
Which
currently,
which we did a full episode on 2 weeks ago with Tom McGath from Deutsche Wohnen & Co. Enteignen. Please check that out if you want to learn more about the appropriation of housing and the projects that are going on in Berlin to possibly, to combat higher rents, to combat, these massive companies that are speculating on property. We could just fairly call it what it is. So the left officially endorsed this, which I thought was quite interesting, and then chose their two heads of party who could theoretically, in some weird turn of events, become Bundeskanzler.
Well, yeah.
Theoretically. Very theoretically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, right now they are working on actually a bill, their own blueprint of a bill for the Deutsche Wohnen Enteignen, which I should mention. Also, 600 delegates online party congress. Worked out better than the CDU one, actually.
That's
more
not
discussions.
saying much, though, except for that the CDU really had to hammer it in that they just kept using the word digitalization and then just kept having technical difficulties.
Of course, that's what the CDU is. I mean,
I actually watched the CDU one, and I didn't watch Die Linke one, and to be very honest, because
better speeches at the Linke one.
I bet it's better speeches. It's I don't find it as fun to watch something that you agree with. Like, what am I going to be like? Yeah, good job, guys. Like,
Oh, yeah, you can sit there with like a flag. And
yeah, no, that's
cheering,
like kind of
Die
corny
Linke
to me.
flag.
Like watching the CDU was like, damn, like one, racism everywhere, digitalization with technical, like it was an event. Sebastian Kurz gave a speech.
Wow.
What's her name from Belarus?
Tiranovskaya.
Yeah. Svetlana Tiranovskaya gave a speech that like said nothing.
Yay.
Donald Tusk also gave a speech, and I found out he speaks like the funniest German.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Way more of an event. Like what? Like the
Sorry.
left is going to talk about like, hey, we're leftists.
Yeah,
Woo.
this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, and yeah, they actually said goodbye to Katja Kipping and Bernd Rixinger after 8 years of being the head, the Doppelspitze,
The double-headed
double-headed eagle of the Linke.
Yeah.
Die Linke.
Die Linke is actually Albanian.
Yes, they're red. That's why they're red.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did elect new party heads of the party, and it's again a Doppelspitze, so a double-headed
Double-headed eagle.
Yeah, of course. This time it's 2 women actually, which they're in der Eifer des Gefechtes. So like in all the fucking like euphoria, they celebrated it as being the first.
But
Party
they weren't
that,
the first.
No, the 90s. The 90s did it. No, the Greens did it in the 90s.
Yeah.
Actually, but still, I mean, it doesn't happen that often. So, yeah, and they didn't compete against each other because they ran on 2 different lists.
Girl power.
One of them being the Quota list for women. Janine Wissler ran on that list, and Susanne Hennig-Wessel on the normal mixed list. So
Yeah. So I think that this is kind of a good point to start. The thing to kind of hammer in about the left is, okay, they have their 2 party heads that come from different wings of the party. And while every single party, I would say in Germany and in most countries, let's just be honest, have different factions that then are within it. The thing I think is the most interesting about the left is that they're explicitly a governing wing of the party and then a non-governing wing of the party.
Yeah.
And these 2 heads of the party represent then both of these factions.
Yeah, we can start with the more like
Parliamentary,
the more famous one.
If you're a leftist,
Germany.
the revisionist.
Yeah. Susanne Hennig-Wessel. She is from Thüringen. Oh, she is in Parliament in Thüringen.
Yeah.
So she works under the government of State Minister Bodo Ramelow.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she's quite known for an incident that happened actually 1 year ago, exactly,
do tell.
in February. Well, now we have March, but in February. And it was the incident that during the elections of the new head of a state, the FDP guy, Kemmerich, was elected by the help of AfD votes. And it was actually, they had like a talk with the AfD before, and hey, we can we can fight the left.
Yeah, that
join forces.
brown liberal coalition that
Exactly.
exists all the time.
Yep.
That's currently existing with the Deutsche Wohnen Enteignen tearing down of posters that Nazis are helping tear down the posters.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Y'all are
Capital and fascism, huh?
Yeah.
How does that go together? I don't know. Well, actually, yeah. So it was expected that Ramelow would win this election because nobody expected the FDP to be so sus. So Susanne brought flowers for Ramelow, and then when it turned out that he didn't get elected and Kemmerich got elected, she went up to the front to congratulate him, but not really congratulate him, and threw the flowers in front of his feet.
And we stand a queen.
Yes, we do. That was
It was a cool moment. Yeah.
A cool moment. Yeah, definitely.
It got some like international attention and whatnot. And then they had they recalled the
re-election
vote and
because the FDP on like state level said, "Ooh, shit, we can't do that." Like
you guys,
you
can't publicly do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Only behind closed doors.
Yeah.
So Susanne, calling them by the first names.
Doing the Chiron tactic of every politician's your friend.
Yeah. So Susanne from Thüringen. No, she actually, she is quite pragmatic when it comes to the left party and her position when it comes to governing, because she is in the government, in the parliament in what's it called, Thüringen. And she kind of like wants to do the Thüringer Weg, so the Thüringen way. Sounds stupid. Which would combine activism and electoralism, like a synthesis of both, saying, okay,
so being a left-wing party.
Yeah, exactly. So
much.
yeah, we can stand here and support the unions or like the strikes and shit like that, and then it's a quote, in the afternoon we go and sign bills with other politicians. So
Yeah.
and then we go drink a beer. I think she said that.
I mean, that's cool. That's
Sounds
fine.
like fun. Yeah,
I fuck with that.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So the left is also kind of like, I think maybe you want to talk about that now, because there's always this kind of thing of like Bundeswehreinsätze, so the army, the German army. And Susanne Hennig-Wessel is more kind of like, okay, she said she would agree with Blue Helmet missions.
Yeah.
So peace missions, in quotes, the UN. That never works that well. But yeah, you have like new information on that as well.
Yeah, this was one of the weirdest things. So I didn't watch the entire interview because I'm smart and I'm not going to waste my fucking time with this because, like I said, I'm not gonna waste my time watching any Thilo Jung shit because he's a horrible journalist. So there's an interview that Thilo Jung did with Susanne Hennig-Wessel that he does. There's this very typical thing, I think, of just German men in general, or maybe German men in German media, because I noticed that the Deutsche Welle dude who interviewed Frauke Petri does this, where they ask these gotcha questions, and then obviously in the sense of like they know that it's going to make the person look bad before going into it, and like that is first off just super disingenuous.
Yeah.
Like. He asked her which deployments of the Bundeswehr, so the German military, would she end, and she said Afghanistan, but then didn't really name any other ones, because let's just be honest, no one can name all the countries that Germany is currently involved in, because Germany is involved in like 13 things that you never hear about. Like the only other one that then maybe you occasionally hear about is Mali. Yeah. All right. Do you like? There are German troops in Djibouti. There are German troops in Somalia. There are German troops in Turkey and Greece. There are German troops in Portugal. There's German troops in like other like in Syria. There's German troops in Afghanistan, and then not to mention the sense of how Germany, which Ted Knudsen pointed this out on an episode that we did with him, of how Germany allows the United States to then do drone strikes from this country as well. Yeah. So does that count or not with then German involvement in things? Germany's not involved in Iraq, but they also sell weapons to the
exactly. They sell weapons. They let people do drone strikes, like the US.
Yeah, they're a NATO member. They're an imperialist, power. This and that and that. It's. I mean, simply like her response was that then she's like, no, I don't think that there should be any, that the Bundeswehr just shouldn't be doing, deployments. Yeah. Like, what is the reason for it? Because either the reason is to help the United States, imperialism, or to help France in colonialism. Like, just straight up, like, hey, we're having a problem in like Mali.
Why do the French always do that?
I don't know. It's so stupid.
It's like, hey, we have a problem.
They're still there. They're still fucking there.
What the fuck?
So it's really like, it was really just mind-boggling of me of like, obviously the left in general is against military deployments. Yeah, of course, as most, I feel that that's like probably one of the most like, normal, not that I think that the left has abnormal policies, but the policy that I think most Germans identify with is a sense of like, we don't want to be bugged with other people's stuff. Yeah. And I think it is genuinely a topic that does disgust most Germans, of the fact of like, oh, like, wait, Germany's in Mali? Like, wait, since when? Since like 2004. Oh,
nobody talks about that.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, nobody talks about that.
I don't know if it's, don't quote me on the year. I think it's like a little bit, I think it's a little bit later, but still. Or like that, every German will tell you, well, the United States wasn't part of the coalition of the willing. It's like, technically, no, they weren't. But Germany is also, in Afghanistan and in Syria, and the Germany sends a shit ton of, helps send a shit ton of mercenaries to, these things that are contracted out as former, like, obviously it's not the country, but it's people who are like former KSK members and whatnot. People who are former, special forces and whatnot, who have then ended up, and not, you can obviously then talk about Germany's, massive armament of the entire world, and the responsibility of that.
Look,
Germany.
we're not actively.
We're not actively.
We're just selling the.
We're just
weapons.
selling tanks to Turkey and Saudi Arabia
course,
with missile. No, they don't sell missiles, but selling Saudi Arabia arms to commit war crimes in Yemen and whatnot.
That's just passive involvement.
So I think it's unfair to simply just target. Like Tilo Jung did the dumb guy thing of like, what? You're against NATO? Name every like NATO deployment ever. And it's like, dude, you can just like be against it and like not name a single one. I don't care. Like anyone with half a brain.
Doesn't matter where they are right now. It's just like if you if this is your conviction, also as a party, you don't have to name every single fucking deployment.
Yeah. Oh, you're a feminist. Name every woman.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And the answer is obviously Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
I'm every woman. Yeah.
True.
So, yeah, it was just like, and this is a thing that, I mean, Tilo Jung is not a journalist. He is a kid who goes around, heckles people for interviews, and then gets them because he's...
Gotcha.
No, I mean, like, that is how he does his thing, is that he just, like, he posts so much content, and he has enough of a following that then people come onto his show. Yeah. And he's not good at actually anything of journalistic integrity because... he can't ask questions. Like he doesn't know anything about the topics.
He's young and naive.
Yeah, no. Actually, it's really funny. I showed Young and Naive. Like I didn't show Young and Naive, but my flatmate asked about some politician. I can't remember who, and they found an interview that they did with Tilo Jung. I was like, I found him on this Young and Naive thing, and he asked, "Is this a bit because the show is called Young and Naive that he's purposely stupid?" And I'm like, "No, that he genuinely is that dumb." So, yeah, I think that it's very unfair that immediately from something like that we're already kind of trying to see from a party that is not going to do well, that. You are like having this attacking from the like center left. I would say Tilo Jung is like thinks he's progressive, but it's like probably like between like SPD or FDP. Like his only issue that he cares about is like smoking weed, which is very on brand for some fucking dipshit dude who looks like a BVS student. So. Yeah.
Yeah, some really weird takes you can see on Twitter. They're probably deleted now, but people have screenshots. Like some really, really stupid takes.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like this is not even a week after the party congress, and we're already having a quote unquote journalist trying to attack then the left for one of their better policies. Like one of their policies I think most Germans would actually...
Yeah, what is Tilo Jung doing? Saying like, I love war, send all the troops or something. Like, I don't know.
I don't know, dude. He sucks.
Yeah, it was unnecessary.
This is an anti-Tilo Jung zone.
Yes.
So, whatever the equivalent of the no-flex zone is for Tilo Jung. That's that. But back to the left.
Yes.
Yeah, glad that I got that finally out of my system on an episode. I talk so much shit about him just in private.
Yeah.
That
now it's on record.
Yeah, Tilo Jung, come at me, homie. This is an invitation to something.
But yeah, since we have the double-headed ego, if we ever say that now, die Doppelspitze.
Yep.
We
have the left party is Albania.
Yes. We have another candidate. This candidate is not as known as Susanne, and her name is Janine Wissler. She is head of a faction of the left faction in Hessen, and she is more of the opposition side of this whole spectrum, of the left party. So you can also tell that from her speech. Her speech was a lot about class and class struggle and Hartz IV, so unemployment, the money, like the program we have in Germany for unemployment, and all the kind of like socioeconomic disadvantages and societal cleavages we have in Germany, especially like in the crisis right now, because it gets especially notable in a crisis like this.
You would say, what? You mean that a Marxist has a Marxist critique of capitalism?
Exactly.
What?
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy.
She's also been a member of group Marx 21. I don't know about that much, unfortunately, but Google it. And you can tell that from her speech as well. So she is a Marxist, I would say, and you can actually tell from the last sentence of her speech, you can actually tell the problem, or not the problem, but the situation of the left party in Germany. This struggling between,
They're having an identity, like they've had an identity crisis. I mean,
exactly.
I think that then to clear this up for people who don't know is that, so the left party is like seen by many as the continuation party of the SED, which was the ruling party of East Germany. There is obviously truth in this. They did break away from then the SED. They became two parties. And then one of them eventually became what is now Die Linke.
Mm-hmm.
And so there has been, I would say, since they have had this rebranding under the left, this, attempting to be accepted by West German, like in West German democratic fields is difficult for them, obviously. Yeah. And secondly, that in the East, they govern in Thüringen. They are the governing party. They're in a coalition.
Maybe we should mention that, Janine Wissler would be the West Linke, leftist, like a member of the party, and Susanne Hennig-Welsow is,
the East German, And they actually do quite, I mean, it's really funny that you can just see on a map where they do well, is that in former East German states, they do quite well in elections, along with the CDU. And then in the West, they do quite poorly.
Yeah, that's true.
Because either the SPD has that social democratic vote already kind of locked down, or there's an anti-East sentiment of that, then this was the former SED party. Obviously, their platform is significantly different from the Marxism-Leninism of the SED in the GDR. Yeah. And to be very fair, there are a lot of very good politicians who existed from the left party. Gregor Gysi, one of the most popular people currently in the left, or in Die Linke, was a former SED party member and a lawyer within it. Yeah, like, very well known that he had this involvement there. And I wouldn't say that then in any sense it contaminates his message of what, his very much worker-oriented politic is. And he is, kind of that guy that I was always, up until recently, he's been much more quiet. And I think he's kind of like letting the way go for like younger people in his party. But he was always the dude who would give like these like good like one-liners in parliament or in speeches and whatnot.
He is a very charismatic person. He's very
plus he's cool. He's just a nice guy.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because actually there are a lot of you could see that at this party congress there were a lot of young women now like striving for higher positions in the party, which will be interesting in the future to see if it like has influence on the party's politics. So, yeah, we will see. But what I said, like Janine Wissler in her speech, like kind of ended the speech saying that the left will today and tomorrow stand for concrete reforms, but also for the will to change the society, like from
below.
From below.
Yes, like
from the bottom on.
Movements.
Yeah, from the bottom. Yeah. On.
Yeah.
And in its all, like in its whole, like kind of like the aim to change capitalist society. She's clearly an anti-capitalist.
Yeah, I think that in the sense that's interesting with the left is that they are kind of the encapsulation of like where like Bernie and Corbyn have bigger parties to exist in within like Labor, and Bernie's not a Democrat, but he exists within like the realm of like progressive Democrats. The SPD's never been able to like hold, like to have a grasp of that. And it's kind of interesting how Die Linke has been the one who have tried to take that Bernie and Corbyn momentum and try to turn it into something of theirs. I know that this was kind of a thing that then some other countries tried. I know that then like Giannis with his like DM movement tried to do it, but DM is like falling apart currently, internally and externally. And you do have some more left-wing parties, like we talked about that in Portugal and whatnot, who've had been in governing coalitions and whatnot, but there was never the same tapping into this type of, at least from my perspective. I think that the left has really been trying to tap into this energy very recently of this grassroots movement organization with then the sense of like a strong party structure sort of thing under then a lot of the similar aesthetics of, Corbyn and Sanders. Like they very much look to those two movements as being like the things that they want to emulate.
Yeah.
Where the SPD is not doing that.
No. I mean, you have a faction of Die Linke that is called Die Bewegungslinke that is like based on movements and tries to like deploy. Not employ.
No deployments. No military deployments.
Deploy identity politics as well. So like kind of like movements,
Yeah, of course.
in that sense. So yeah, but
identity politics are not devoid of leftism.
Exactly.
It's just that liberal identity politics are problematic.
Exactly.
So
overdo it. Don't overdo it.
Yeah, and I think that then one of the most interesting, like kind of the perfect example that you mentioned that there is this like Bewegung, like the movement fraction of the party. The left is one of the weirdest, where there's a fraction who does not want to govern whatsoever, and they're kind of like, which in my opinion is kind of silly because like they're like literally waiting for the socialism button to just like be pressed, and then they'll govern. And then
like
there's
the communist platform, or
not even communist platform. You can be a communist and still be willing to
that's true.
be in parliament in a capitalist country. Obviously, like there is a sense of tenet of Leninism that then does have electoral wings, but that's not the only wing. Obviously, like you can't depend solely on electoralism. And you can't depend solely on being in opposition.
Look at Nick defending the Thüringer way.
I do think that that's the only way. Like, to be very fair, I think it's the only way to then be somewhat productive in this, because being in opposition in any chance whatsoever. I'm not saying that then you have to be pragmatic. You can still stand your ground and whatnot.
I think. Sorry, can I? I think that
go for it.
Yeah, that's a problem though. I think that's a fear that a lot of leftists have, is because if you're in a coalition, you have to do compromises. Always, there will be compromises, and
I mean, we can look at the thing like
I'm just saying, people are afraid to that something that was left before joins a coalition and then turns
or just
into
governs
like
without a coalition like Syriza and just becomes neoliberal.
Or that.
I get it.
I know.
I get the fear. Don't get me wrong.
Especially in a system like under like a capitalist system that we have, and where all the dynamics and everything functions.
Again, like I said, I understand. I understand we completely. However, I would much rather have than the potential of a red-green coalition we see in Berlin, where actually things that get brought up, like Deutsche Wohnen and Eignen, like potential things like restructuring how public transit, then like the pricing system of public transit, which the Greens the Greens and the SPD are never going to bring up, and like the SPD, especially with the appropriation thing in Berlin, have very much tried to like weasel their way out of it.
Yeah, that's actually an argument someone made during the party congress, I think, is without the left in Berlin in this coalition, there wouldn't have been like the first round of the Deutsche Wohnen and Eignen. It's also due to the left that they didn't fail. So now we're in the second round, like trying to get more signatures. And that is also because the left was in a governing position here.
Yeah. Also, quick shout out to Deutsche Wohnen and Eignen.
Yeah.
If you are in Berlin and you are not a part of the campaign already, go and do it. Yeah.
Yes.
We have an episode on it that is called on the main Corner Späti feed called "The 90s Are Dead, Long Live the 90s," where we had Tom McGath come on, kind of give us an update. It's cool. It's a good thing, and this is one of the policies that the left has brought into a parliamentary sense in Berlin, and have made a platform of their party on a national level. Now, here's where it gets even like more interesting, I think, is that we are kind of talking about a party that will never be governing.
Yeah.
Let's just be realistic here. As much as I like the policies of the left, I think that I think that if they were like rebranded slightly different, they'd be much more appealing, because there is a stigma against Die Linke. There is a stigma against leftism in Germany.
Especially in like West Germany, there are still parts of the SPD that say they would never work with Die Linke because of SED pass or something like that. Or that's basically their argument.
And
it's like this really like ingrained kind of, I don't know, fear of socialism or whatever the West.
Yeah, well, I think it's like, I mean, obviously, first and foremost, it comes from like a very
and
distorted.
of course, it's the GDR like past. So
yeah, it comes with a horribly distorted view of that the GDR was just as bad as Nazi Germany.
Oh yeah, of course.
Which, I mean, is just historically inaccurate and is like kind of a Nazi argument. To be very honest,
the unfortunate thing that when we talk about things like the GDR or like other, communist countries, former communist countries, that because they're not there anymore, they're always like seen as the losers. So there must be a reason. It's always like, I don't know. It's always because they were bad.
Yeah,
it's a very one-sided view in a lot of like these debates. Is that it was bad. It was just bad. You stand in lines or something.
Which like
you're queuing for bread or something. That's all people talk.
While
about.
we say during a pandemic where literally everyone's queuing
in front of
for
everything.
fucking everything. Yeah, or that, I mean, the United States can't provide basic goods for people right now. Let's just think
people
about
don't talk about literacy or like housing or anything like that was provided.
Or even the sense of like your access to food. Yeah. Like, let's just be real here. Like, everyone talks about, bread lines. And like, that was a very small period of time that existed in the, what is called the Iron Curtain, Like, that was during, like, shortages during the 70s, something like that. Yeah. And then, of course, during the Russian Civil War, obviously, because you're in a fucking civil war. Yeah. So, no, I agree in the sense that there's like the distortions of how the East is looked, that there is a very uncritical, for a country that then pretends that they're critical about everything, there's a very uncritical one-sided view of the history of East Germany, to where they also equate the Berlin Wall with being as bad as the Holocaust. Like, there's something wrong with this country. I know,
yeah, there's definitely something very wrong.
So... and I think that then an honest, like, I mean, yeah, again, was East Germany like an authoritarian one-party state? Yeah, like, as a leftist who like thinks that there's a lot of things that East Germany did well, providing basic necessities for people, I can admit that I think that like from the way that it was governed was like not great. Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
But the Stasi was bad. No one's gonna fucking tell you unless like a weird 14-year-old tanky is gonna be like,
yeah, Stasi is so cool.
Yeah, Stasi. Like, it doesn't make you any less of like a Marxist or like a Marxist Leninist or whatever to admit that like, the security apparatus of East Germany was like kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, of course.
Does the U.S. and West Germany not also have ridiculous security apparatuses that we don't talk about?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
that's the thing, but you don't talk about it the way that you talk about something that is in the past and lost in that sense,
Yeah, I don't remember. The Stasi did not murder Fred Hampton. Let's just say that.
Yeah, let's just say that. Yeah.
But, I think that it's always like... I think we kind of like leave it at this. This is more just like a laid back conversation. I think of like the entity that is Die Linke. I think I have to like leave this with the thing that if I could vote in Germany, I would vote for this party. I think that in terms of, we can debate forever and always if they're a socialist party or not, or if they're just social democrats. I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
I really don't.
The best choice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
the SPD is becoming more conservative. The
Yep.
Greens are a mess, which we are going to do a massive fucking, 2-parter on the Greens. And
the FDP is Christian Lindner.
The FDP literally. Oh my God, that's what I wanted to say. So Kemmerich, we talked about very briefly earlier. The thing that I love about the FDP is that they've transformed. I know that we didn't want to talk about the FDP at all. We were going to try to avoid this, but we're at the end of this, so I can just kind of talk about this tidbit. So Kemmerich, who was the head of Thüringen for like a week until they did re-elections. Yeah. If you don't know, during Corona, he's become a very one-issue candidate, as in not really a candidate, he's not running, but a one-issue politician. And that one issue has been reopening hair salons because he owns a chain of hair salons.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
And the thing that I just love so much with the FDP is that they've made their entire identity around very dumb single issues. And I just can't wait for when these can't work anymore because they pick ones that don't fucking matter. Like, keeping Tegel open, like,
that was
fine airport, but like, who gives a shit?
I don't know.
And now it's closed.
Yeah,
so.
no, it's open for vaccines.
Yeah. Or like digitalization, something they just like ran under a brand name under, like, I mean, literally just like made it their brand.
Well, they had one single sexy issue, and that was Christian Lindner.
Yeah, you know, like a man who in any other country would be like a 4 out of 10 on the hot scale because he's the only one who's like under 50.
Yeah, exactly. With politicians, you accept the like lowest.
Yeah, you have Christian Lindner to pick from, or you have Jens Spahn, who literally looks like Buster from Arrested Development. And I just like love that. Then so he made his one issue during Corona, the hair salon thing, which I love. It's so typical of this party.
That's such a FDP thing to do. So I think what we can say to sum it up, it will be interesting to see how these like 2 women will govern the party. To see where that leads, especially because you have them from like a bit of 2 opposite parts of the party, like factions of the party. One who's more in favor of the opposition position, even though she didn't say it like that.
Yeah,
still,
I mean, it's
obvious.
obvious.
We want to change society from its like roots.
Yeah,
want to change all of it, kind of. But I mean, she mentioned reforms. And the other person that is already in a parliament in a governing position that has experience in that way, and not in the sense of an opposition. But I think that too. We'll revisit the left when we get closer and closer to how polls are doing. Like the left is doing not well right now. They're at around 6-7%. Yeah, especially in the West. They're they had like Rheinland-Pfalz today and Baden-Württemberg, and they're around like 6 to 4%.
Yeah, that's no surprise though.
Yeah.
So which they both have elections this weekend.
Baden-Württemberg is Green, of course, the biggest boys in the room.
The Greens, who are practically the CDU.
CDU is the second, and then it's fucking AfD.
That doesn't surprise me at all, though.
And then SPD. So AfD on like 11.
You mean to tell me that then a state that is just like predestined for like hyper conservatism?
I know. I mean, even the Greens in that state are
the Greens
black.
are like the Greens are the CDU,
conservative.
So and we'll definitely do an update on then those elections, because although they're like localized Western states, they like could potentially show then like all right, the Greens are already in control in Baden-Württemberg. It's not just say that then like the Greens are magically doing well. They've been doing well in that
already,
state.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Rheinland-Pfalz would be interesting because they have a current the traffic light coalition of the SPD.
Yeah, and SPD
Greens
is still like leading the polls in Rheinland-Pfalz currently. So yeah.
Yeah, so the current coalition,
and it looks,
though,
I think slightly better for the left there as well.
Yeah,
because it's
but they're not going to.
it's a cute little state.
Yeah, I really doubt that they're going to get into a sense of a governing coalition though in these states.
No.
But what I was going to say about then what gets interesting is that then I'm curious in how about a red-green coalition, if we were to ever then get there, let's say that the left polls just high enough and the CDU drop, which, I mean, to be very fair, how the CDU is not dropping off the face of the earth right now after just corruption scandal and the vaccine scandal and then a second corruption scandal.
Maybe people still equate it with Merkel.
They do, of course. But like even Merkel has like not been doing well.
I know, but
so the
she's
potential
been there for the people for 16 years.
Oh my God, yeah. I'm over it, man.
I know. Come on, we said goodbye in our first Wahlotron.
Yeah, exactly. We gave you our we said adieu, Merkel, and
adieu.
that's it. Now leave. I get it. You have until September, but still, if not longer, because let's see how long it takes to make a coalition.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But the closer I think it gets to the potential, if there was theoretically, looking into the future, if the discussion of a red-green comes up, I'm wondering how much liberals are going to shit on Berlin and show that then like, see, this city doesn't function. When the reality of it has been mostly the SPD just shitting on anything good.
Yeah.
And
like
the Greens and the left like doing most of the legwork.
Yeah.
And to the point that then they were shitting on the left again the other day because the left shot down the idea of making Berlin a quote unquote like carbon zero city where you would have no cars allowed in like in the city center.
Yeah.
And the small caveats to that obviously is that there's an expansion of the S and the U-Bahn, fair, with no changes of pricing and whatnot.
No.
So if people don't know, Berlin's not the most expensive city in the world.
More expensive than New York.
Yeah. Okay. That's
come on.
Yeah, but I mean, like compared to like London or something like that, or even like other
London's
cities,
more expensive.
Yeah, but even compared to like Hamburg or Munich or whatever, Berlin's like pretty cheap, generally speaking. Like a monthly ticket's like 90 something, like I think 92 euros now or something. Like it's not cheap. So there'd be no changes in pricing in that, and then parking would then be done how it's done in LA, which is like market-based pricings of things, which I can understand from a leftist perspective would be okay. I get then the sense of wanting to then be carbon neutral, which to be very fair is a trendy issue currently. Like I don't think that the pollution from cars is not the problem that is changing the world right now. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I do think that then Berlin should take the initiatives of having more, bike lanes, this and that, all good. But making this in the sense of punishing people on a market level for driving a car is just not realistic. Making parking then something that then only someone who has money is like kind of shit.
Always, exactly. That's not the solution.
I think that then that
Make
a lot of
transport free.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's my opinion.
The thing of that then, so I think that the closer that we get towards the election, if the left does have some momentum, there's going to be more articles written like this Spiegel article that came out the other day of like, oh, the left hates the climate. It's like, they don't hate the climate. These suggestions are just stupid. Yeah. They're good in they're good. It's a good intention with a horrible execution. Yeah. Like market-based executions are bad.
Yeah, it's so funny because then they say they have headlines like that, but when it comes to like considering, for example, workers in coal mines or something like that, wait, what did I want to say? No, that's the same argument.
Oh no, you're talking about the sense of with
seeing like exactly, because then it's like people fighting for like closing, of course, like and then
with like Ende Gelände and whatnot.
Exactly, like shout out. But then people would say, well, the left doesn't pay attention to workers or something like that. And then when they pay attention to class,
and it's like, oh, they're
they hate the
up.
climate, so you can't do it right. You know?
Exactly. Or there's like, oh, they're teaming up with the AfD because some of these workers could be racist or whatever. It's like, wait, what? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh my god, yeah, people like especially like the media.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking.
It's a complex situation. So
on also like one other note, speaking of then media in the terms of like left-wing stuff and whatnot, and I would argue that then while Germany has good journalism as a whole, like pretty good, fine media landscape and whatnot compared to other countries, there is a predisposition of a hatred of the left automatically because of just history, whatever it is.
60s, big time.
So one of the I know that the show is in English, but one of Germany's like only national left-wing papers, Neues Deutschland, is kind of fighting for themselves to survive. They are they're affiliated, of course, with Die Linke, so I'm not going to like say that they're like, completely independent of party politics, but they do good, particularly in the sense of like, I would say in terms of op-eds and anti-capitalist, reporting and stuff like that.
It's also always super well researched. It's like very informative. It's really good journalism. Leftist journalism. Yeah.
So they're kind of fighting for their survival at the moment. Media. If you're not a financial paper, you're not doing quite well at this time. Yeah. And we'll put a link for their Twitter page and whatnot in the show notes. If you want to help out in any way whatsoever, they obviously need it. So that's just kind of one little shout out that I wanted to give for the end of the episode. I guess on that note, we'll see you guys after the elections in Baden-Württemberg and Rheinland-Pfalz, and watch the world end with the green-black coalition that's obviously going to happen, at least in Baden-Württemberg, because it already is the future, and the future is hell.
Yes. On that note, bye.
Bye-bye.